Imagine reaching into an old jar of pennies, pulling out a single 1944 Lincoln cent, and discovering that the little copper coin in your hand could be worth far more than 1 cent. Millions of people have handled this coin without giving it a second thought, yet a handful of these pennies have sold for hundreds, thousands, and in extremely rare cases, even life-changing amounts of money. The question is simple. How can one ordinary-looking penny become a collector's dream while another is worth only pocket change? The answer is a fascinating story that begins during one of the most important moments in American history. The 1944 Lincoln penny is one of the most recognizable coins ever produced by the United States Mint. At first glance, it looks almost identical to countless other Lincoln cents. It features Abraham Lincoln on the front, just as it has since 1909, and on the reverse are the famous wheat ears that gave this series its nickname, the wheat penny. If your coin has no mint mark beneath the date, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During 1944, Philadelphia produced well over 1 billion Lincoln cents, making the no mint mark version the most common of the 3 mint locations that year. That may sound like bad news for collectors, but appearances can be deceiving. While millions survive, certain examples stand out because of their exceptional condition, striking quality, or rare minting mistakes. To understand why the 1944 penny is so interesting, we have to go back to World War II. Copper was desperately needed for military equipment, including shell casings, electrical wiring, and communication systems. Because of this shortage, the United States Mint made an unusual decision in 1943. Instead of using the traditional bronze alloy, pennies were struck from zinc-coated steel. Those steel cents worked well enough for conserving copper, but they created a new set of problems. Many quickly rusted, their shiny coating wore away, and people often confused them with dimes. The public wasn't impressed, and the mint looked for a better solution. By 1944, the government found an alternative source of copper. Brass recovered from used military shell casings was melted down and recycled into new Lincoln cents. This meant that the 1944 penny returned to its familiar copper color, but with metal that had already served America in wartime. Every ordinary-looking 1944 penny carries a remarkable connection to history, transforming military equipment into everyday money. The composition of a typical 1944 Lincoln penny is mostly copper with small amounts of tin and zinc. It weighs about 3.11 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. On the front is Victor David Brenner's classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Around him appear the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1944. Turn the coin over, and you'll see 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the Latin motto E pluribus unum. This simple yet elegant design remained in circulation for decades and has become one of the most beloved coin designs in American history. Because so many 1944 pennies were produced, most examples found in circulation today are worth only a little more than face value if they are heavily worn. A circulated coin may sell for a few cents to $1 depending on its condition. But as collectors know, condition changes everything. Coins that escaped circulation and retained their original mint luster become much more desirable. Bright red examples that still display their original copper color often command impressive premiums. Professional grading services evaluate these coins based on preservation, surface quality, strike, and eye appeal. For example, an average uncirculated 1944 Philadelphia penny might sell for several dollars to several dozen dollars. Better preserved examples can bring well over $100. Exceptional specimens graded at the highest levels have sold for thousands of dollars because so few survived in nearly perfect condition. One of the reasons collectors pay so much for top-grade coins is population rarity. Even though more than 1 billion were made, almost all entered circulation. Every year, tiny scratches, fingerprints, cleaning, and normal handling reduce the number of flawless survivors. Today, finding a 1944 penny that looks almost exactly as it did when it left the mint is incredibly difficult. Then there are the famous mint errors, and this is where the story becomes even more exciting. The most legendary 1944 Lincoln penny isn't made of copper at all. By accident, a few leftover steel blanks from 1943 remained inside the coin presses. When production switched back to copper in 1944, those forgotten steel planches were struck with the new 1944 date. The result was one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever created. Only a tiny number of genuine 1944 steel cents are known today. Because they were never supposed to exist, collectors consider them among the greatest mistakes in United States coinage history. When one authentic example appears at auction, the bidding can become intense. Depending on its condition and certification, a genuine 1944 steel Lincoln cent has sold for well over $100,000, with some remarkable examples bringing even higher prices. Stories like these inspire thousands of people to examine every old penny they own. Another valuable variety involves doubled dies. During the minting process, if the working die receives multiple slightly misaligned impressions, parts of the design can appear doubled on every coin struck from that die. Collectors carefully inspect the date, lettering, and other design elements under magnification. True doubled dies are different from ordinary machine doubling, and certified examples can bring significant premiums. Off-center strikes are another fascinating error. Instead of being perfectly centered, part of the design may be missing because the blank wasn't properly aligned when struck. Depending on how dramatic the error is and whether the date remains visible, these coins can become highly collectible. Some 1944 pennies also display clipped planches, die cracks, cuds, lamination errors, or dramatic die breaks. While not every error is valuable, unusual examples often attract strong collector interest. With values reaching thousands of dollars, it's no surprise that counterfeit coins have appeared over the years. Knowing how to identify a genuine 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is extremely important. The first thing to check is the color. A normal 1944 Philadelphia penny should have the familiar reddish-brown or brown appearance of copper. If your coin looks silver like a 1943 steel cent, don't assume you found a fortune. Many counterfeiters simply plate ordinary copper pennies with steel or zinc. Next, test it with a magnet. A standard copper 1944 penny will not stick to a magnet. If it does, more investigation is needed. While a genuine 1944 steel cent is magnetic. Millions of altered coins are magnetic as well because they've been coated or modified. Weight is another important clue. A regular bronze 1944 penny weighs about 3.11 grams. A genuine steel example weighs closer to 2.7 grams. Even small differences matter, so a precise digital scale can be very helpful. Carefully examine the date. Some counterfeiters alter the last digit of a 1943 steel penny to resemble a 4. Under magnification, filing marks, unusual shapes, or damaged numbers often reveal the alteration. If you ever believe you've discovered an unusual 1944 penny, especially a magnetic one, avoid cleaning it. Cleaning can permanently reduce its value and make professional authentication more difficult. Instead, consider having the coin examined by a respected third-party grading service. Authentication provides confidence for both collectors and buyers, especially when significant money is involved. The 1944 Lincoln penny has another interesting feature that collectors appreciate. Since it was struck from recycled wartime brass, the exact metal mixture varies slightly from coin to coin. Although the differences are usually too small to notice, each penny represents a tiny piece of America's wartime recycling effort. Another fun fact is that these pennies circulated during one of the most important periods in modern history. Soldiers heading overseas, factory workers building military equipment, and families supporting the war effort all used these same coins in everyday life. Every worn example tells a silent story of commerce during a defining era. Many collectors also enjoy assembling complete date and mint sets of wheat pennies. Because the Philadelphia coin carries no mint mark, it serves as an essential piece of those collections. Finding one with sharp details and beautiful natural color is always satisfying. Color itself plays a surprisingly large role in value. Grading companies generally classify copper coins as brown, red-brown, or red. Fully red examples retain most of their original mint color and usually command the highest prices. Even two coins with identical grades can have dramatically different values simply because one has brighter original color. One mistake many beginners make is polishing old pennies in hopes of increasing their value. Unfortunately, the opposite usually happens. Collectors strongly prefer original surfaces. A cleaned coin often loses much of its collector appeal, no matter how old or rare it may be. Storage also matters. Coins kept in dry, stable environments tend to preserve their surfaces much better than coins stored in damp basements or loose jars where they constantly rub against one another. The popularity of the 1944 Lincoln penny continues to grow because it appeals to every type of collector. Beginners can afford ordinary examples for only a small amount of money. Intermediate collectors search for high-grade coins with attractive color. Advanced collectors pursue rare varieties and spectacular mint errors that appear only occasionally at major auctions. This wide range of possibilities keeps the coin exciting. Every collection has room for a 1944 Philadelphia cent, whether it's worth $1 or $100,000. Perhaps the greatest attraction is the thrill of discovery. Unlike many expensive collectibles locked away in museums, Lincoln pennies still appear in inherited collections, estate sales, old piggy banks, forgotten coffee cans, and family coin albums. Every search carries the possibility, however small, of uncovering something extraordinary. Imagine opening an old coin album passed down through generations and finding a bright red 1944 penny that has remained untouched for decades. Or discovering a magnetic 1944 cent that immediately raises questions. Moments like these keep collectors searching year after year. The 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln penny reminds us that history often hides in the smallest places. What seems like an ordinary coin may represent wartime sacrifice, American innovation, and decades of collecting excitement. Most examples are common, yet the finest survivors and the rarest mint errors continue to amaze the collecting world with remarkable prices and unforgettable stories. So the next time you come across a handful of old pennies, don't rush to spend them without taking a closer look. Check the date. Look for the missing mint mark beneath the year. Notice the color, the weight, and every tiny detail. That ordinary little coin might simply be another wheat penny. Or it could be the beginning of an incredible discovery that changes the way you look at every coin forever. And if today's story surprised you, wait until you see what some other forgotten Lincoln pennies have sold for. Because the next remarkable treasure might already be hiding in plain sight.
Imagine reaching into an old jar of pennies, pulling out a single copper-colored coin, and discovering it could be worth hundreds, or even thousands of dollars. It sounds unbelievable, yet stories just like this continue to inspire collectors across America. One coin that quietly surprises people is the 1979 D Lincoln penny. Most are worth only a cent, but a few rare examples have become treasures that collectors eagerly search for. The 1979 D Lincoln penny was produced at the Denver Mint during a time when pennies were still made mostly of copper. Although millions were struck, this coin represents an important chapter in American history and coin collecting. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary Lincoln cent you might find in pocket change. But hidden among the millions are special varieties, exceptional condition coins and fascinating minting mistakes that have transformed a simple penny into something much more valuable. To understand why collectors pay so much attention to this coin, it helps to travel back to 1979. America was entering a new decade filled with economic challenges and rising inflation. Cash was still the primary way people paid for everyday purchases, and pennies changed hands constantly. The United States Mint had the enormous job of producing enough coins to keep up with demand. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark below the date, worked around the clock producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. Every coin began as a blank metal planchet before being struck by powerful presses that stamped Abraham Lincoln's portrait on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other. The Lincoln cent itself had already become one of America's most recognizable coins. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure instead of the symbolic Lady Liberty. By 1979, Americans had been carrying Lincoln pennies for 70 years, making them one of the country's longest-running coin designs. Looking closely at a genuine 1979 D penny reveals many interesting details. On the front, Abraham Lincoln faces to the right. Above his head appears the motto, "In God We Trust." The word Liberty is placed to the left, while the date 1979 and the small D mint mark appear on the right. Turn the coin over and you'll find the famous Lincoln Memorial. Tiny details cover the building, including columns that many people never notice. If your eyesight is sharp enough, you can even make out a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. It's one of the smallest portraits ever included on a circulating U.S. coin. The coin is made from 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. These specifications became especially important just a few years later when the mint changed the composition of the penny to mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. Because of that change, many collectors appreciate the heavier copper cents produced before 1982. Most 1979 D pennies are extremely common. Millions survive today because so many were produced and because people naturally save pennies. If you find one in circulated condition, it's usually worth only face value or perhaps a few cents. But that's where the story becomes exciting. Collectors are not searching for ordinary examples. They want coins that stand out from the rest. One reason is condition. A coin that has never entered circulation can be dramatically more valuable than one that spent decades moving from cash register to cash register. Tiny scratches, worn edges, and dull surfaces reduce a coin's desirability. But when a 1979 D penny still displays its original bright red color and crisp details, collectors take notice. Professional grading services examine coins under magnification and assign numerical grades. A coin graded near perfection becomes much harder to find because so few survive without damage. While average examples remain inexpensive, superb uncirculated coins can sell for hundreds of dollars. Some of the finest known examples have reached impressive auction prices because collectors compete fiercely for the best quality specimens. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is not always about low production numbers. Sometimes rarity comes from outstanding preservation. Another reason collectors search through thousands of 1979 D pennies is the possibility of mint errors. Mint errors happen during the manufacturing process, creating coins that differ from normal production. These mistakes are accidental, making them fascinating to collectors. One error to watch for is an off-center strike. Instead of the design appearing perfectly centered, part of the image shifts toward one side, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area. The more dramatic the error while still showing the date, the more desirable the coin becomes. Another popular error involves double strikes. In rare situations, a coin is struck more than once, producing overlapping designs that immediately catch the eye. Collectors also search for die cracks. These appear as raised lines on the coin after a die develops small fractures from repeated use. Although many die cracks are minor, larger examples can attract strong collector interest. There are also filled die errors. Dirt or grease inside the die can prevent parts of the design from striking fully, creating missing letters or weakened details. While not every filled die commands high prices, unusual examples often become collectible. Die chips provide another interesting variety. Small pieces of the die may break away, leaving raised metal blobs on the finished coin. These unusual features can make an otherwise ordinary penny much more interesting. Perhaps the most famous errors involve double dies, where parts of the design appear doubled because of a mistake during die creation. True double dies are carefully studied by experts because they differ from common machine doubling. Genuine double die coins can bring substantial premiums depending on the strength and popularity of the variety. Although dramatic double die varieties are not common for the 1979 cent, collectors continue examining thousands of coins in hopes of discovering overlooked examples or unusual die varieties that escaped attention for decades. This treasure hunt is part of what makes coin collecting so exciting. Imagine searching through a box containing 5,000 pennies. Almost every coin looks ordinary. Then suddenly one stands out. Maybe it's perfectly preserved. Maybe it has an unusual strike. Maybe it shows an error nobody in the family ever noticed. That single discovery can completely change the value of an entire collection. Auction records prove that exceptional quality matters. A typical circulated 1979 penny may never sell for more than a few cents. But certified mint state examples with blazing original red color have sold for hundreds of dollars. The very finest graded examples have crossed the auction block for well over $1,000 when collectors competed for registry quality coins. That difference is astonishing. One penny worth 1 cent. Another worth over $1,000. The difference often comes down to preservation, grading, rarity, and collector demand. If you're hoping to identify a valuable 1979 penny, there are several simple things to check. First, verify the date. Make sure it clearly reads 1979. Next, look for the small D mint mark below the date on the front of the coin. This confirms it was produced in Denver. Then examine the surfaces carefully. Is the coin bright and shiny, or has it become dark and worn after years in circulation? Original mint luster greatly increases collector interest. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the lettering and Lincoln's portrait. Search for unusual doubling, die cracks, or striking errors. Weigh the coin if possible. A genuine copper 1979 penny should weigh close to 3.11 grams. Significant differences could indicate damage, heavy corrosion, or an altered coin. Be cautious if someone claims a common worn penny is worth thousands of dollars without independent verification. The coin market attracts honest collectors, but it also attracts exaggerated claims and altered coins. Professional grading services help protect buyers by authenticating coins and assigning standardized grades. If you ever discover an unusually preserved or unusual-looking 1979 penny, having it professionally examined may be worthwhile. One fascinating fact surprises many beginners. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies, yet finding one in nearly perfect condition decades later is surprisingly difficult. Most entered circulation immediately, receiving tiny marks every time they touched other coins during counting, transportation, and everyday spending. Even before reaching the public, many coins already had small contact marks from bouncing against each other inside large mint bags. That means truly flawless examples are much scarcer than their original production numbers suggest. Another interesting detail involves color. Collectors often describe copper pennies using 3 color categories. Brown coins have fully aged over time. Red-brown coins retain part of their original mint color. Red coins still display nearly all their original bright copper appearance. Those vibrant red examples are generally the most valuable because maintaining that original color for decades is incredibly difficult. The 1979 penny also reminds collectors how history can hide inside ordinary objects. Think about everywhere one of these pennies may have traveled. It may have bought candy at a neighborhood store in the late 1970s. It may have been dropped into a charity donation box during the 1980s. It may have sat forgotten inside a dresser drawer through multiple decades before finally being rediscovered. Every scratch tells part of a story. Every coin has passed through countless hands. That invisible journey gives each surviving penny its own unique history. Collectors also enjoy assembling complete Lincoln cent collections covering every year and mint mark. The 1979 D serves as an important piece in those sets. While it may not be the rarest Lincoln cent ever produced, finding an attractive example helps complete a historical timeline stretching across more than a century of American coinage. For young collectors, the 1979 D penny often becomes an affordable introduction to the hobby. It teaches valuable lessons about grading, preservation, mint marks, varieties, and careful observation without requiring a large investment. Experienced collectors appreciate it for different reasons. Some search only for the highest certified grades. Others specialize in mint errors. Some build complete date and mint collections. Others enjoy discovering beautiful red examples still hiding in old bank rolls. There is always another challenge waiting. Perhaps the greatest lesson from the 1979 D Lincoln penny is that value is not always obvious. Most people overlook pennies because they seem ordinary. Yet history has repeatedly shown that small differences can create enormous value. Tiny mint error, exceptional preservation, a rare variety. These details transform everyday coins into prized collectibles. That's why experienced collectors never rush when examining old change. They slow down. They look carefully. They compare details. They understand that patience often rewards those willing to notice what everyone else ignores. So the next time you receive change at a store or discover an old coin jar tucked away in a closet, don't dismiss those pennies too quickly. Among them could be a bright red 1979 D Lincoln cent, a fascinating mint error, or an unusually preserved example that collectors would love to own. Every coin carries a story. Every collection begins with a single discovery. And sometimes, the smallest coin in your pocket becomes the one everyone wishes they had noticed first. The remarkable journey of the 1979 D Lincoln penny proves that history, craftsmanship, and a little bit of luck can come together inside a coin worth only 1 cent. Whether you're an experienced collector or someone simply curious about old coins, there's always another penny waiting to reveal its secrets. And who knows? The next incredible discovery might already be sitting quietly in your pocket, just waiting for someone to take a closer look. Have you ever picked up a dusty old penny from a pocket, a piggy bank, or the bottom of a drawer without giving it a second thought? What if that ordinary-looking 1-cent coin was quietly worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars? It sounds impossible, but for one particular coin, a tiny detail can make all the difference. Today we're uncovering the fascinating story behind the 1984 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that millions of people have handled. Yet very few have examined closely enough to discover its hidden secrets. The 1984 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is one of the most common pennies ever produced in the United States. At first glance, it looks just like countless other Lincoln cents. Abraham Lincoln faces to the right on the front, while the Lincoln Memorial appears on the back. Most people would spend it without hesitation. But collectors know that appearances can be deceiving. Some examples are only worth 1 cent, while others have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars because of rare errors, exceptional condition, or unique characteristics. To understand why this penny has become so popular among collectors, we need to go back to the early 1980s. America was recovering from economic challenges. Inflation had affected the value of everyday money, and the U.S. Mint continued searching for ways to reduce production costs. Just 2 years earlier, in 1982, the composition of the Lincoln cent changed dramatically. For decades, pennies had been made mostly from copper, but rising copper prices made that too expensive. Beginning in the middle of 1982, the mint switched to a new composition made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. This made the coins much cheaper to produce while keeping the familiar copper appearance that Americans recognized. By 1984, every regular Lincoln penny was struck using this zinc core with its thin layer of copper. Each coin weighs about 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. Although these specifications seem ordinary, they would later play an important role in helping collectors identify genuine examples and unusual mint errors. The no-mint mark version was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At that time, Philadelphia still did not place a mint mark on Lincoln cents intended for circulation. This often confuses new collectors who assume the missing mint mark is an error. In reality, the absence of a mint mark on a regular 1984 penny simply means it was produced in Philadelphia, and that was completely normal. The obverse features Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. Above Lincoln's head appears the motto, "In God We Trust." To the left is the word "Liberty," and to the right sits the date 1984. On the reverse is the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, with the words "United States of America, e pluribus unum," and 1 cent. Millions upon millions of these pennies entered circulation. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint produced well over 8 billion Lincoln cents during 1984. That enormous production number means most surviving examples remain extremely common. If you find an average circulated 1984 no-mint mark penny today, it is usually worth exactly 1 cent. So why are collectors still searching through jars of spare change? The answer lies in quality, rarity, and mistakes made during production. Coin collecting has always rewarded the unusual. Whenever something unexpected happens during the minting process, collectors pay attention. The more dramatic the error and the fewer examples known, the more desirable the coin becomes. Perhaps the most famous variety associated with the 1984 Lincoln penny is the doubled ear error. This fascinating variety has become legendary among Lincoln cent collectors. If you look closely at Lincoln's ear using a magnifying glass, you may notice something remarkable. On genuine doubled ear examples, the ear appears to have been struck twice, creating an obvious second outline. Instead of a clean single ear, the design looks doubled in a way that is visible even without advanced equipment once you know what to look for. This wasn't caused by damage after the coin left the mint. Instead, it happened because of a doubled die, where the working die itself received a doubled impression during manufacturing. Every coin struck from that particular die carried the same unusual feature. Collectors love double die varieties because they represent a true mistake made before the coins were ever produced. Each one tells a story about the complex process of creating coin dies and the tiny imperfections that occasionally escape quality control. Depending on condition, a genuine 1984 doubled ear penny can be worth hundreds or even several $1,000s. High-grade certified examples have brought impressive prices at auction, especially those with brilliant original surfaces and minimal wear. Condition is another major factor affecting value. Professional grading companies evaluate coins using the Sheldon scale, ranging from poor 1 all the way to mint state 70. A circulated penny may have scratches, worn lettering, dull color, and flattened details. An uncirculated coin, however, still displays its original mint luster and crisp design. Because billions of 1984 pennies entered circulation, finding worn examples is easy. Finding perfectly preserved examples is much harder. Collectors compete fiercely for coins that appear almost exactly as they did the day they left the mint. Even without a major error, a spectacular mint state example with exceptional eye appeal can command surprising premiums compared with ordinary circulated coins. Color also matters. Lincoln cents are often classified into 3 color categories. Brown coins have mostly lost their original red color through oxidation. Red-brown coins retain some original mint color. Full red coins still display bright copper red surfaces similar to when they were first struck. Collectors generally pay the highest prices for original red examples because preserving that brilliant appearance for decades is extremely difficult. Another reason the 1984 penny attracts attention is the variety of other mint errors that occasionally appear. Some coins were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. Others experienced die cracks, where fractures developed in the die itself, leaving raised lines across the coin. There are also broad strikes, clipped planchets, and other production mistakes that occurred during the fast-paced manufacturing process. Each error has its own level of rarity and value. Some may only add a small premium, while dramatic examples can become prized collectibles worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One important lesson for new collectors is that not every unusual-looking penny is actually valuable. Many coins become damaged after leaving the mint. They may be scratched, bent, stained, polished, heated, or altered by chemicals. These forms of damage often reduce value rather than increase it. Learning to distinguish genuine mint errors from post-mint damage is one of the most valuable skills any collector can develop. Suppose you think you've found a special 1984 no-mint mark penny. Where should you begin? Start with a careful visual inspection under bright lighting. A simple magnifying glass with at least 10 times magnification is often enough to reveal important details. Examine Lincoln's ear closely for clear doubling. Look at the date and lettering to see whether they appear sharp and properly formed. Check both sides of the coin for unusual strike characteristics. If the coin appears exceptionally well preserved, avoid cleaning it. This may sound surprising, but cleaning a collectible coin usually lowers its value. Even gentle polishing leaves tiny scratches that experienced collectors and grading experts can spot immediately. Natural surfaces are almost always preferred over shiny, cleaned ones. If you believe your coin might be rare, consider having it authenticated and graded by a respected third-party grading service. Certification provides confidence that the coin is genuine and accurately graded, making it easier to sell if you ever choose to do so. Let's talk about real values. An average circulated 1984 no-mint mark penny is generally worth face value. A bright, uncirculated example may bring a few dollars. Higher-grade mint state coins can sell for significantly more depending on quality. The famous doubled ear variety often reaches several $100s in lower mint state grades. Exceptional certified examples with outstanding preservation have sold for several $1,000s at major auctions, demonstrating how dramatically value can increase when rarity and condition come together. These auction results inspire collectors across the country to search through jars, rolls from banks, estate collections, and inherited coin albums. Every penny becomes a tiny mystery waiting to be solved. One of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting is that valuable discoveries still happen today. Unlike many antiques locked away in museums, coins continue circulating through everyday life. Someone could unknowingly spend a valuable variety at a grocery store. A child could receive one in pocket change. An old coffee can filled with pennies in a garage might contain a hidden treasure overlooked for decades. Stories like these keep the excitement alive. Collectors often remember the thrill of finding their first valuable coin far more vividly than the money it was worth. That moment of realizing an ordinary-looking penny isn't ordinary at all creates a sense of discovery that few hobbies can match. Another interesting fact about the 1984 Lincoln cent is its place in the long-running Lincoln series. Since its introduction in 1909, the Lincoln cent has witnessed world wars, economic booms, technological revolutions, and countless changes in American society. The 1984 penny represents one chapter in that remarkable history. It also reflects the transition to modern zinc composition, making it part of an important period in U.S. coinage. Even though billions were produced, certain varieties remind us that perfection is nearly impossible in mass production. Every now and then, a tiny mistake slips through. Years later, that tiny mistake becomes the reason collectors eagerly search through millions of ordinary coins. The popularity of online marketplaces and coin collecting communities has only increased interest in coins like the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Collectors share discoveries, compare varieties, and help identify unusual finds. As information has become easier to access, more people have learned what to look for, yet remarkable discoveries continue because so many pennies remain unexamined. Perhaps that's the greatest appeal of this coin. You don't need to travel across the world or spend a fortune to begin searching. The next handful of change you receive could contain a piece of American history. Most will be ordinary. A few will be interesting. And every once in a great while, one could be genuinely extraordinary. So before you toss another penny into a jar or spend it without a second glance, take a closer look. Check the date. Look for the missing mint mark that identifies the Philadelphia issue. Examine Lincoln's ear for that famous doubling. Pay attention to the coin's condition, color, and overall appearance. You may discover that what seemed like the smallest coin in your pocket holds the biggest surprise. The story of the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny reminds us that value isn't always obvious at first glance. Sometimes history, rarity, and a tiny detail invisible to most people can transform a simple 1-cent coin into a prized collectible. And somewhere, tucked away in an old collection, hidden inside a forgotten coin jar, or waiting quietly in someone's loose change, another remarkable 1984 penny may still be waiting to be found. The only question is whether the next person to notice it will be you. Have you ever reached into your pocket, found an ordinary-looking penny, and tossed it aside without a second thought? What if that tiny copper-colored coin was actually worth hundreds, thousands, or even much more to the right collector? Today we're taking a closer look at the 1990 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that millions of Americans have seen but very few have truly examined. While most are only worth a single cent, a handful stand out because of their condition, unusual errors, and surprising collector demand. The difference between an ordinary penny and a valuable one can be so small that it's easy to miss unless you know exactly what to look for. The 1990 Lincoln penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, pennies produced in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark, making the missing letter completely normal. This often confuses new collectors who believe that every coin without a mint mark must be rare. In reality, more than 6 billion Lincoln cents were produced at Philadelphia in 1990, making it one of the highest mintage years in the series. So if billions were made, why are collectors still talking about this coin more than 3 decades later? The answer has everything to do with quality, rarity in top condition, and a few fascinating mint mistakes that transformed ordinary pennies into coins worth searching for. The Lincoln cent has one of the longest-running designs in American history. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first circulating U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a real historical figure. Before Lincoln appeared on American coins, symbolic images such as Lady Liberty were the standard. The decision to honor Lincoln marked a major change in American coinage and created a series that continues to this day. The portrait on the front of the 1990 penny was designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces to the right with the word Liberty beside him and the date below. Above his head appears the familiar phrase, "In God we trust." On the reverse, you'll find 2 wheat stalks on older pennies, but by 1990 the reverse had changed to the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look carefully at the memorial, you can even see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the building. It's one of the smallest detailed portraits ever placed on a circulating American coin. Although the penny looks copper, it actually contains very little copper at all. Beginning in 1982, the U.S. Mint switched to a core made mostly of zinc with a thin copper plating. The 1990 penny weighs about 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. That change helped reduce production costs as copper prices continued to rise. Because of this composition, damaged examples often show gray zinc beneath the reddish copper coating where the plating has worn away. Most 1990 no-mint mark pennies entered circulation immediately and spent years passing from one hand to another. They bought candy, newspapers, groceries, and gasoline. They jingled in cash registers, sat in jars on kitchen counters, and disappeared into piggy banks. Over time, almost all of them developed scratches, stains, and wear. That is exactly why finding a perfect example today has become surprisingly difficult. Collectors use grading systems to judge a coin's condition. The closer a coin is to the way it looked when it left the mint, the higher its grade and the greater its value. While an average circulated 1990 no-mint mark penny is usually worth only 1 cent, a brilliant uncirculated example can bring several dollars. Coins graded at the highest certified levels become dramatically more valuable because so few survive without even the smallest imperfections. Imagine 2 identical pennies struck seconds apart. One enters circulation and spends 30 years changing hands. The other is carefully stored in a collector's roll from the day it was minted. Decades later, the worn coin remains worth 1 cent, while the pristine example could be worth hundreds. That's the power of preservation in the coin collecting world. Professional grading services examine coins under magnification, looking for tiny marks, luster, strike quality, and overall eye appeal. A coin receiving a grade of mint state 67 or higher is exceptionally difficult to find. When a nearly flawless 1990 no-mint mark Lincoln cent reaches one of these elite grades, collectors often compete fiercely to own it. Auction records show that superb examples have sold for hundreds of dollars, and some of the finest certified pieces have crossed the $1,000 mark. These prices don't apply to ordinary pocket change, but they demonstrate how condition alone can transform a common coin into a prized collectible. Whenever a new highest-grade example appears on the market, collectors watch closely because population numbers remain very low compared to the billions originally struck. Condition isn't the only reason a 1990 penny can become valuable. Mint errors are another exciting possibility. During the high-speed manufacturing process, small mistakes occasionally escaped quality control. These errors are genuine accidents created at the mint, and collectors love them because everyone tells a unique story. One popular error is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet isn't perfectly aligned between the dies before being struck. Part of the design may be missing while the date remains visible. Depending on how dramatic the error is, these coins can sell for substantial premiums. Another collectible error involves die cracks. As steel dies wear out after striking millions of coins, tiny fractures can develop. These cracks transfer raised lines onto the coins they produce. Large, dramatic die cracks often attract specialists who appreciate unusual mint-made features. There are also double die varieties, where parts of the design appear doubled because of the way the die itself was created. It's important to understand that true double dies are different from machine doubling, which usually adds little or no value. Genuine double die coins require careful examination, often with magnification, and sometimes verification by experts. Collectors also search for die chips, cut errors, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and other unusual production mistakes. While many are uncommon, they're exciting discoveries because they remind us that even modern coins can have extraordinary stories behind them. If you're wondering whether your own 1990 No Mint Mark penny deserves a closer look, start with a simple inspection. Hold the coin under bright light. Check that the date clearly reads 1990. Confirm there is no mint mark beneath the date, which is normal for Philadelphia issues. Look for original mint luster, sharp details, and minimal scratches. Then examine both sides for unusual doubling, missing design elements, or striking abnormalities. A small digital scale can also help. A genuine 1990 Lincoln cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. Significant differences may indicate damage, alteration, or a counterfeit. Although counterfeit modern pennies are relatively uncommon compared to famous rare dates, valuable error coins have occasionally been altered by dishonest sellers hoping to fool collectors. A strong magnifying glass or microscope is one of the best tools any beginner can own. Details invisible to the naked eye often become obvious under magnification. You might notice tiny die cracks, doubled lettering, or unusual features that deserve further research. If you believe you've found something special, resist the temptation to clean the coin. Cleaning almost always reduces collector value because it damages the original surface. Even a gentle polishing can leave microscopic scratches that professional graders immediately recognize. In coin collecting, originality is often more valuable than shine. Instead, place the coin in a protective holder and compare it with reliable photographs of known varieties. If it appears genuinely unusual, consider submitting it to a respected third-party grading service for authentication and grading. Certification provides confidence for both collectors and potential buyers. One fascinating fact about the 1990 Lincoln penny is that millions of people unknowingly spend collectible coins every year. Estate sales, inherited collections, forgotten piggy banks, and old coffee cans filled with change continue to release interesting coins back into circulation. While finding an extremely valuable example is rare, it happens often enough to keep collectors searching through rolls of pennies from banks. Roll hunting has become a favorite hobby for many enthusiasts. They purchase boxes of pennies from local banks, carefully inspect every coin, and return the common pieces while keeping interesting finds. The excitement comes from never knowing what might appear in the next roll. A single afternoon of searching could uncover older wheat cents, attractive uncirculated coins, or even a valuable mint error. The 1990 Lincoln cent also represents an interesting period in American history. The nation was entering a new decade, Technology was advancing rapidly, and cash transactions remained a daily part of life. Every one of these pennies quietly witnessed that era, passing through countless hands and participating in millions of ordinary moments across the country. For younger collectors, modern coins like the 1990 penny offer an affordable entry into the hobby. Unlike classic rarities that can cost thousands of dollars, searching through everyday change requires patience rather than a large budget. Every coin found becomes an opportunity to learn about history, manufacturing, economics, and the fascinating details hidden in plain sight. Experienced collectors often say that knowledge creates value. Two people can look at exactly the same penny and see completely different things. One sees a single cent. The other notices sharp strike quality, blazing original luster, a possible die variety, and exceptional preservation. Education allows collectors to recognize opportunities that others overlook. That idea is what makes coin collecting so rewarding. It's not simply about finding expensive coins. It's about developing the ability to appreciate craftsmanship, history, rarity, and the stories carried by everyday objects. Even common coins become more interesting once you understand how they were made and why certain examples stand apart. The next time you receive change at a store, don't rush to spend every penny without taking a closer look. That ordinary 1990 no mint Mark Lincoln cent might simply be worth 1 cent, and that's perfectly normal. But if it's unusually well preserved or displays a genuine mint error, it could be worth far more than its face value. Countless collectors have made exciting discoveries by paying attention to coins that everyone else ignored. Every coin has a journey. Some remain ordinary forever. Others become treasured collectibles because of remarkable preservation or unexpected mistakes made during production. The challenge is knowing how to tell the difference. So before that next handful of change disappears into a drawer or a jar, take a few extra seconds to examine each penny. You may not uncover a fortune overnight, but every search sharpens your eye, expands your knowledge, and brings you one step closer to finding a truly remarkable coin. And who knows? The next 1990 no mint Mark Lincoln penny you discover could be the one that turns an ordinary moment into an unforgettable collector's story. Have you ever picked up a dusty old penny without giving it a second thought? What if that tiny 1-cent coin sitting in your change jar could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even far more than its face value? Today, we're taking a close look at the 1992 Denver Mint Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of people have seen, but very few have truly understood. Hidden among ordinary pocket change are rare varieties and remarkable condition rarities that have turned this humble cent into one of the most exciting modern Lincoln pennies for collectors. The 1992 D Lincoln penny may not seem special at first glance. It was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when pennies were produced by the billions. Most examples are still worth only 1 cent today. But as every experienced collector knows, the story of a coin is never just about how many were made. It's about the rare mistakes, the finest surviving examples, and the unexpected discoveries that can transform an everyday coin into a prized collectible. To understand why the 1992 D penny attracts so much attention, we need to travel back to the early 1990s. The United States economy was recovering from a recession, cash transactions were still part of everyday life, and the Lincoln cent remained one of the most heavily used coins in circulation. Every day, millions of Americans received these pennies as change from grocery stores, gas stations, and local businesses. The Denver Mint was responsible for striking billions of Lincoln cents that year. Each coin carried a small D mint mark beneath the date, identifying Denver as the place where it was made. Workers operated powerful coin presses around the clock, producing thousands of coins every minute. The goal was simple: create enough pennies to meet the nation's demand while maintaining consistent quality. The design itself had already become one of the most recognizable in American history. On the front, Abraham Lincoln faced to the right, just as he had since 1909, when the Lincoln cent first replaced the Indian head penny. Victor David Brenner's famous portrait honored the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and became the first circulating American coin to feature an actual historical figure. Turn the coin over, and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look carefully, you can even see a tiny image of the Lincoln statue inside the memorial. It's one of the smallest detailed engravings ever placed on a circulating U.S. coin. The 1992 D penny was made from a copper-plated zinc composition. Earlier Lincoln cents contained mostly copper, but rising metal prices forced the mint to change the composition in 1982. Since then, each penny has contained a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. The coin weighs about 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. On paper, there's nothing extraordinary about these specifications. Millions of identical coins rolled off the presses. Yet hidden among them are examples that have become legendary. One of the biggest reasons collectors search through 1992 D pennies is the possibility of finding the famous close AM reverse variety. To understand why this matters, look closely at the word America on the reverse. On most 1992 D pennies, there is a noticeable space between the letters A and M. But on the extremely rare close AM variety, those two letters almost touch each other. This happened because a reverse design intended for future-proof coins was accidentally paired with business strike dies. The result was an incredibly rare variety that escaped into circulation before anyone realized what had happened. Only a small number of genuine 1992 D close AM cents have ever been confirmed. Many collectors have searched rolls of pennies for years without finding one. That rarity has made it one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cent varieties ever discovered. When authentic examples appear at auction, they often attract intense bidding from specialists who know just how difficult they are to find. Depending on condition and certification, genuine pieces have sold for thousands of dollars, with exceptional examples bringing even stronger prices. Their scarcity makes them one of the modern era's most talked about Lincoln cents. But even if your 1992 D penny isn't the famous close AM variety, don't lose hope. Condition alone can dramatically affect value. Think about how pennies are normally treated. They're dropped into pockets, tossed into jars, scraped across counters, and forgotten in drawers for years. By the time most people notice them, they're covered in scratches, stains, and wear. Now imagine a 1992 D penny that somehow escaped all of that. A coin with blazing original red color, razor-sharp details, and virtually no marks from circulation. These pristine examples are surprisingly difficult to find. Professional grading services evaluate coins on a numerical scale from 1 to 70. A perfect mint state 70 coin is almost impossible to achieve. Even mint state 67 or 68 examples are extremely scarce because tiny imperfections can lower a grade. Collectors are willing to pay significant premiums for these highest-grade survivors. While circulated coins are worth only face value, exceptional certified examples with beautiful original surfaces have sold for hundreds of dollars and, in the highest grades, even more. That's because registry collectors compete to own the finest known examples of each date and mint mark. Errors provide another exciting reason to examine every 1992 D penny carefully. Coin production is a complex process involving massive machinery working at incredible speed. Occasionally, something goes wrong. A coin may be struck slightly off-center, leaving part of the design missing while still showing the full date. Another may receive a dramatic die crack, creating raised lines across the surface. Some develop die chips that resemble tiny extra blobs of metal. Others display doubled features caused by slight movement during die creation or other manufacturing issues. Certain striking errors are common and add little value, while dramatic, well-preserved errors can command impressive prices from collectors. One of the most interesting aspects of coin collecting is that every error tells a story. Instead of seeing a mistake, collectors see evidence of what happened inside the mint at a specific moment in history. Of course, with valuable coins comes another challenge: counterfeits and altered pieces. If someone tells you they found a rare 1992 D close AM penny, don't accept the claim without careful examination. Start by looking at the word America under good lighting and magnification. The spacing between the A and M should match known authenticated examples. Compare it with reliable reference images from respected grading companies. Next, inspect the mint mark. It should appear natural and consistent with the rest of the design. Added mint marks or altered dates usually leave visible signs under magnification. Weight is another important clue. A normal 1992 D penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. Significant differences may indicate damage, alteration, or another issue. The edges should also look consistent. Filing, grinding, or unusual texture can suggest tampering. If you believe you've found something extraordinary, resist the temptation to clean it. Cleaning almost always reduces collector value because it permanently alters the original surface. Even a gentle polish can leave microscopic scratches that experts immediately recognize. Instead, place the coin in a protective holder and consider submitting it to a respected third-party grading service. Professional authentication provides confidence for both collectors and potential buyers. One fascinating fact about the 1992 D penny is that countless examples are probably still hiding in circulation: old piggy banks, inherited collections, and forgotten coin jars across America. Unlike famous rare coins that disappeared generations ago, this penny is modern enough that many remain mixed with ordinary change. Every time someone searches a bank roll of pennies, there's a tiny chance of uncovering an overlooked treasure. This possibility is exactly what keeps so many collectors excited. Imagine opening a 50-cent roll of pennies from your local bank. Most coins appear ordinary, but suddenly one catches your eye. You notice the date. You flip it over. The letters A and M look unusually close together. Your heart starts racing. Moments like these have happened before. Throughout the history of coin collecting, remarkable discoveries have often come from ordinary people rather than professional dealers. Valuable coins have been found in cash registers, garage sales, inherited jars, and loose change received while buying a cup of coffee. Stories like these inspire collectors to keep searching. The 1992 D penny also represents an important period in the history of the Lincoln cent. It belongs to the final years of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse before the design eventually changed in 2009 for Lincoln's bicentennial celebration, followed by the Union Shield Reverse beginning in 2010. For many collectors, building a complete Lincoln cent collection means including every date, every mint mark, and every important variety. The 1992 D Close AM has become one of the key modern varieties that serious collectors dream of adding to their albums. Even collectors who never expect to own one enjoy the hunt. Searching pennies is affordable, educational, and surprisingly relaxing. Each coin becomes a small piece of American history waiting to tell its story. Another reason collectors admire the 1992 D penny is that it reminds us how valuable knowledge can be. Two pennies may look almost identical to the average person, yet one could be worth a single cent while another could sell for thousands simply because of a tiny design difference that most people would never notice. That's what makes coin collecting different from many other hobbies. Success isn't always determined by luck. It's often determined by patience, careful observation, and a willingness to keep learning. Every coin has details waiting to be discovered. The spacing between letters, the sharpness of a strike, the color of the surfaces, tiny die markers, and subtle varieties all become clues that reveal a coin's true identity. Perhaps the greatest lesson from the 1992 D Lincoln penny is that extraordinary treasures sometimes hide in the most ordinary places. A coin that passed through thousands of hands without anyone noticing could eventually become the centerpiece of someone's collection. So the next time you receive change at a store, don't ignore those pennies. Take a closer look. Check the date. Find the small D mint mark. Turn the coin over and examine the word America. Notice the condition. Look for unusual features. You never know what might be waiting in plain sight. Millions of 1992 D pennies were made, but only a tiny fraction stand apart because of exceptional preservation, fascinating mint errors, or the legendary Close AM variety. Those rare survivors continue to excite collectors, inspire treasure hunters, and remind us that history often arrives in the smallest possible package. The next great discovery could already be sitting in your pocket, hidden in a forgotten coin jar, or waiting inside the next roll of pennies from your local bank. And until someone takes the time to look closely, that remarkable little coin will remain just another ordinary cent, quietly waiting for the moment when someone finally recognizes its true value. Have you ever tossed a 1993 Denver Lincoln penny into a jar without giving it a second thought? What if one of those ordinary-looking cents turned out to be worth hundreds, or even thousands of dollars because of a tiny detail almost nobody notices? Today, we're uncovering the surprising story behind the 1993 Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans have handled but very few have truly examined. Before you spend another penny, you may want to take a much closer look. The 1993 Lincoln penny was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when the United States economy was steadily growing and cash transactions were still part of everyday life. Grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and banks handled millions of pennies every single day. Most people saw them as almost worthless, but collectors knew that every year of production had the potential to hide something extraordinary. The Denver Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents in 1993. At first glance, that huge production number suggests this coin should never be valuable. In fact, the vast majority are worth only 1 cent in circulated condition. But coin collecting has never been about how many coins were made. It has always been about finding the exceptional pieces that escaped into circulation with unusual characteristics, remarkable preservation, or rare minting mistakes. To understand why the 1993 penny continues to attract attention, it's important to know a little about the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln penny first appeared in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It became the first regular United States coin to feature a real historical figure instead of a symbolic image like Lady Liberty. That decision changed American coinage forever. By 1993, the Lincoln Memorial design had already been on the reverse of the penny for more than 3 decades. The front still displayed Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, while the back featured the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely at the reverse under magnification, you can even see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial between the central columns. It's one of the smallest portraits ever included on a circulating American coin. The 1993 penny is made primarily from zinc with a thin copper coating. Since 1982, the U.S. Mint had switched from mostly copper pennies to this copper-plated zinc composition to reduce production costs. Each coin weighs about 2.5 grams and measures just over 3/4 of an inch across. To most people, those specifications seem ordinary. But to collectors, every tiny measurement matters because unusual weight or composition can sometimes signal a rare mint error. One of the first things collectors check is the small D mint mark located below the date. That letter tells us the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. While millions of these coins were struck, quality control wasn't perfect. Every production year creates opportunities for fascinating mint mistakes, and 1993 was no exception. One of the most exciting possibilities is finding a dramatic off-center strike. During the minting process, a blank planchet must be perfectly aligned before being struck by the dies. If the blank shifts even slightly, part of the design may be missing while a blank crescent-shaped area appears on the coin. Minor off-center strikes are interesting, but major ones showing both the date and mint mark can become highly collectible. Another error collectors search for is a broad strike. This happens when the retaining collar fails to hold the coin in place during striking. Without that collar, the metal spreads farther than normal, creating a larger and thinner coin with unusual dimensions. Broad strike pennies are much scarcer than ordinary coins and can command impressive prices depending on their condition. Then there are die cracks and die breaks. As minting dies age, the tremendous pressure used to strike coins can eventually cause small cracks to develop. These cracks transfer raised lines onto the finished coins. In more dramatic cases, pieces of the die may actually break away, creating raised blobs or unusual shapes that collectors find fascinating. Each one tells the story of a hard-working die reaching the end of its life. Another category of collectible varieties involves doubled dies. Unlike machine doubling, which generally adds little value, a genuine doubled die occurs during the die creation process itself. Certain letters, numbers, or design elements may appear doubled under magnification. Although major double dies for the 1993 penny are extremely rare, specialists continue examining thousands of coins because new discoveries occasionally emerge years after a coin enters circulation. Perhaps one of the biggest surprises is that condition can be even more important than rarity. Imagine 2 identical 1993 pennies. One has spent decades passing through cash registers, accumulating scratches and wear. The other was carefully stored immediately after leaving the mint, preserving its original bright red color and flawless surfaces. Even though both coins came from the same production run, their values can be dramatically different. Collectors describe copper-plated Lincoln cents using color designations. Brown coins have lost most of their original mint color through oxidation. Red-brown coins retain a mixture of original color and darker toning. The most desirable examples are classified as red because they still display nearly all of their original brilliant copper appearance. High-grade red coins from 1993D are much harder to find than many people realize. Professional grading services evaluate coins on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin grading mint state 65 is already considered an excellent example. But when a 1993D penny reaches mint state 67 or even mint state 68 with full original red surfaces, it becomes far scarcer. Tiny imperfections that most people would never notice can make the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth hundreds. There have been impressive auction results for exceptional examples. While circulated 1993D pennies generally remain worth face value, certified mint state red coins with outstanding preservation have sold for well over $100. Some elite examples graded among the finest known have realized several $100s at major auctions. Rare error coins from the same year have achieved even higher prices, especially when dramatic mint mistakes are involved. These auction records often surprise beginners because they reveal an important truth about coin collecting. Value isn't determined by age alone. A much older penny can sometimes be worth less than a modern coin if millions survive in similar condition. Meanwhile, a newer coin with exceptional preservation or an unusual mint error can become highly desirable among advanced collectors. If you're wondering whether you might own a valuable 1993D penny, there are several things to examine carefully. First, confirm the date reads 1993 and that the small D mint mark appears below the date. Next, inspect the surfaces under good lighting. Original mint luster should create a cartwheel effect as you tilt the coin. Heavy scratches, corrosion, or cleaning marks usually reduce collector value. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to inspect the lettering, numbers, and Lincoln's portrait. Look for unusual doubling, cracks, missing details, or striking abnormalities. Examine the edge to make sure it appears normal and consistent. If the coin looks dramatically different from other 1993D pennies, it could deserve further investigation. Weight can also provide valuable clues. A normal copper-plated zinc penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. A digital scale capable of measuring to 1/100th of a gram is a useful tool for collectors. If a coin's weight differs significantly from the expected standard, it may indicate an error or, in some cases, damage that occurred after it left the mint. Of course, not every unusual-looking penny is valuable. Many coins become damaged in circulation, exposed to chemicals, squeezed by machines, or altered by people attempting to create fake errors. Learning the difference between genuine mint errors and post-mint damage is one of the most important skills a collector can develop. Counterfeit coins also exist, although fake 1993D pennies are less common than counterfeits of famous rarities. Sometimes altered dates or added mint marks are used to imitate valuable varieties from other years. That's why experienced collectors compare questionable coins with certified examples and rely on professional grading services when a potentially valuable discovery is made. One fascinating fact about the Lincoln Memorial Reverse is that it quietly honored one of America's greatest presidents while also featuring one of the smallest hidden portraits in U.S. coinage. Many people carried these pennies for decades without ever realizing Lincoln appears twice on the same coin. Once you notice it, you'll never look at a Lincoln Memorial penny the same way again. Another interesting detail is just how many opportunities collectors have to search for hidden treasures. Because billions of Lincoln cents remain in circulation, people continue finding collectible varieties in pocket change, coin rolls from banks, estate collections, and forgotten jars stored in closets. Every search creates the possibility of discovering something unusual. Many experienced collectors actually enjoy searching modern pennies because they're affordable and accessible. Unlike extremely rare 19th century coins that cost thousands of dollars, a roll of modern Lincoln cents can still be purchased at face value from many banks. That makes the hunt exciting because anyone can participate, regardless of experience or budget. The 1993 D Lincoln penny also reminds us that coin collecting is about much more than money. Every coin represents a snapshot of American history. Think about where these pennies have traveled over the past 3 decades. Some bought newspapers, others paid for school lunches, arcade games, parking meters, or morning coffee. Each scratch tells part of a journey through countless hands across the country. Collectors appreciate these coins because they connect everyday Americans with history in a way few other hobbies can. A single penny may have passed through dozens or even hundreds of pockets before finally catching the eye of someone curious enough to examine it closely. That sense of discovery keeps the hobby alive generation after generation. Even if your own 1993 D penny turns out to be worth only 1 cent, the search itself teaches valuable lessons about history, craftsmanship, and attention to detail. And every once in a while, someone really does uncover an extraordinary error coin or an exceptionally preserved example hiding in plain sight. So the next time you receive change at a store or empty an old coin jar, don't rush past those pennies. Pick up the 1993 D Lincoln cent and study it carefully. Look at the mint mark, admire the portrait, inspect the Lincoln Memorial, and search for anything unusual. The difference between an ordinary penny and a prized collectible may be something almost invisible to the naked eye. That's what makes coin collecting so captivating. Every coin tells a story, every detail matters, and every handful of pocket change carries the possibility of an unexpected discovery. Today, it might be a 1993 D Lincoln penny. Tomorrow, it could be another overlooked coin hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to recognize its true value. Until then, keep searching, keep learning, and remember that sometimes the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprise. Have you ever picked up a penny without giving it a second thought, only to wonder later if you accidentally spent a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? It may sound unbelievable, but one ordinary-looking 2002 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has surprised collectors more than once. While millions of these coins were made, a tiny number stand out because of rare errors, exceptional condition, and unusual features that can turn a 1-cent coin into a collector's treasure. The 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that often gets overlooked. At first glance, it looks just like the pennies still hiding in jars, drawers, and pockets across America. But that ordinary appearance is exactly what makes it so fascinating. Most people never stop to inspect it closely, and that means valuable examples can remain unnoticed for years. To understand why this coin has attracted so much attention, we need to go back to the year 2002. America was entering a new chapter after the turn of the millennium. Everyday commerce depended heavily on coins and cash, and the United States Mint continued producing billions of Lincoln cents to keep up with demand. The Lincoln cent itself has a remarkable history. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first regular circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Before Lincoln appeared on the cent, American coins usually displayed symbolic figures instead of actual people. By 2002, the familiar portrait created by Victor David Brenner had already appeared on the front of the penny for nearly a century. Lincoln still faced to the right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 2002 to the right. The reverse continued to feature the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. One interesting detail often surprises new collectors. If you look carefully at the Lincoln Memorial on the back of the coin, you can actually see a tiny image of Abraham Lincoln sitting inside the monument. It is one of the smallest portraits ever included on a circulating American coin, and many people never notice it until someone points it out. Now let's talk about one of the most confusing parts of this coin. The phrase "no mint mark" makes some people believe something is missing or that the coin must be in error. In reality, that's not the case. A 2002 penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. For many decades, Philadelphia cents simply did not carry a mint mark. So, if your 2002 penny has no letter beneath the date, that's completely normal. Pennies made in Denver display a small d, while those made in Philadelphia show nothing at all. That doesn't mean every 2002 no-mint mark penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth exactly 1 cent because so many were produced. The Philadelphia Mint struck billions of pennies that year, making them common in everyday circulation. So why do collectors keep searching for them? The answer lies in condition and mistakes. Coin collecting is filled with stories where tiny differences separate an ordinary coin from one worth serious money. The 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is no exception. The first factor is condition. Most pennies spend years moving from one person's pocket to another, picking up scratches, dents, stains, and wear along the way. But a few somehow escape circulation almost completely. Collectors describe these as mint state coins. They still show their original mint luster, sharp details, and almost no signs of handling. Finding a 2002 penny in this condition today is much harder than many people expect because pennies are among the most heavily used coins in America. Professional grading companies carefully inspect every detail under magnification before assigning a grade. The highest grades, such as MS67, MS68, or even higher, are extremely difficult to achieve. Only a tiny percentage of surviving coins qualify. That's where prices begin to climb. An average circulated 2002 no-mint mark penny might still buy you absolutely nothing beyond its face value. But a beautiful uncirculated example can sell for several dollars, and coins with exceptionally high certified grades have reached hundreds of dollars at auction because advanced collectors compete for the finest known examples. Then there are error coins. Errors happen during the manufacturing process inside the United States Mint. Despite sophisticated equipment and strict quality control, no minting operation is perfect. Occasionally, a mistake slips through and enters circulation. Collectors love these mistakes because they create coins that are completely different from the billions of normal examples. One popular error is the double die. This happens during the creation of the coin's die, causing certain letters or numbers to appear doubled. On genuine double die coins, the doubling is part of the design itself rather than damage after the coin leaves the mint. Another valuable possibility is an off-center strike. If the blank planchet isn't positioned correctly when struck, part of the design may be missing while the remaining image shifts noticeably toward one side. Depending on how dramatic the error is, these coins can become highly collectible. There are also broad strikes, die cracks, cut errors, clipped planchets, and coins struck through grease or foreign material. Some errors are subtle, while others are obvious even without magnification. Although these errors are uncommon, they can dramatically increase the value of a 2002 no-mint mark penny. Some certified examples with significant mint errors have sold for hundreds of dollars, while especially dramatic or unique errors have brought even stronger prices when collectors compete for them. One reason these coins attract attention is that errors are unpredictable. No one knows exactly when one will appear, and every error tells a different story about what happened inside the mint at the moment the coin was created. Another factor that influences value is color. Copper-plated zinc cents are generally classified into 3 color categories. Brown coins have darkened over time. Red-brown coins retain part of their original bright appearance. Red coins preserve nearly all of the fresh copper color they displayed when they left the mint. Collectors usually pay the highest prices for brilliant red examples because they are much more difficult to preserve over many years. This means 2 pennies with the same grade could have noticeably different values simply because one retains its original color while the other has toned over time. Now imagine opening an old coin jar that has been sitting untouched for 20 years. Among hundreds of ordinary pennies, you notice one shining brighter than the others. It shows almost no wear. The edges are crisp. The surfaces still flash with original mint luster. That single penny might deserve a closer look before spending it. Of course, condition alone doesn't guarantee a fortune. Many online videos and social media posts make unbelievable claims that every 2002 penny is worth thousands or even millions of dollars. Those stories often leave out the most important detail. Extraordinary prices almost always involve extraordinary coins. They may have extremely rare errors. They may be among the finest certified examples known. Or they may possess a combination of rarity, outstanding preservation, and collector demand that doesn't apply to the average penny found in circulation. That's why careful evaluation matters. If you think you've found an unusual 2002 no mint mark penny, begin with a simple inspection. Look closely at the date. Check that there is no D beneath it. Examine Lincoln's portrait for unusual doubling. Inspect the lettering around the edge. Turn the coin over and study the Lincoln memorial. Watch for missing details, strange shapes, cracks, or evidence that the design shifted during striking. A small magnifying glass or coin loop makes this much easier. Also weigh the coin if possible. A normal 2002 Lincoln cent should weigh about 2.5 grams because it consists of a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. A weight that differs significantly could indicate either damage, an unusual mint error, or another issue worth investigating further. Be careful, though. Many coins become damaged after leaving the mint. Parking lot pressure, tools, chemicals, heat, and other environmental factors can change a coin's appearance. Those changes usually do not increase value and sometimes reduce it dramatically. True mint errors happen during production, not afterward. That distinction is one of the first things experienced collectors learn. If your coin appears especially unusual or remains in exceptional condition, professional authentication can provide confidence. Independent grading companies examine the coin, verify whether it is genuine, identify important errors if present, and assign a condition grade recognized throughout the collecting community. Certified coins also make buying and selling easier because collectors know exactly what they are getting. One fascinating aspect of the 2002 penny is how accessible it remains. Unlike famous 19th century rarities that most people will never encounter, this coin still occasionally appears in circulation, old piggy banks, inherited collections, and forgotten coffee cans filled with change. That possibility keeps the hunt exciting. Every handful of pennies carries a tiny chance of revealing something special. For many collectors, the thrill isn't just about money. It's about discovery. Imagine finding a coin that millions of people overlooked. Imagine realizing that something sitting quietly in your change jar has a story stretching back more than 20 years and survived almost untouched while countless others became worn beyond recognition. That's part of the magic of coin collecting. Every coin passes through countless hands, businesses, and moments in history. Some disappear forever. Others survive almost exactly as they were struck. The 2002 no mint mark Lincoln penny reminds us that rarity isn't always about age. Some coins become valuable because so few remain in remarkable condition. Others become valuable because an unexpected mistake occurred during production. And occasionally, both factors come together in a single extraordinary coin. Collectors continue searching because no one knows when another outstanding example will surface. That excitement has inspired generations of Americans to check pocket change more carefully, visit local coin shows, study mint errors, and learn about the nation's history through its smallest denomination. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson this little penny teaches. Something doesn't have to be made of gold or silver to become valuable. Knowledge often creates value long before the market does. The person who recognizes a rare variety before everyone else has an advantage that can't be measured by face value alone. So the next time you receive change at a grocery store, empty your pockets after work, or discover an old jar of pennies in the attic, don't rush to spend them without taking a closer look. Among those ordinary-looking cents could be a remarkably well-preserved 2002 no mint mark Lincoln penny or perhaps an unusual mint error that escaped quality control decades ago. Most will still be worth only 1 cent. But all it takes is one exceptional coin to transform an ordinary handful of change into an unforgettable discovery. And that's exactly why collectors continue searching every single day, because the next valuable Lincoln penny may already be waiting in plain sight, hiding where almost nobody thinks to look. Have you ever looked at a 2005 Lincoln penny and thought it was just another 1-cent coin? What if that tiny copper-colored coin sitting in a jar, tucked inside an old wallet, or forgotten in a drawer could actually be worth far more than 1 cent? While millions of people spend these pennies without a second thought, collectors know that a few unusual 2005 Lincoln cents have become highly desirable because of rare errors, exceptional condition, and fascinating stories. Today, We're taking a closer look at the 2005 Lincoln penny with no mint mark to discover what makes some of these ordinary-looking coins surprisingly valuable. The 2005 Lincoln penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike pennies made at the Denver Mint, which carry a small D beneath the date, Philadelphia cents from 2005 were produced without any mint mark at all. This often confuses new collectors, who sometimes believe that the missing mint mark is an error. In reality, it is completely normal. Every regular business strike Lincoln cent made in Philadelphia during that year was intentionally produced without a mint mark. The Lincoln cent itself has one of the longest-running designs in American history. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. By 2005, the familiar portrait of Lincoln created by Victor David Brenner had already been appearing on American pennies for nearly a century. On the reverse of the 2005 penny, you'll find the famous Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look carefully inside the memorial building, you can actually see a tiny image of the Lincoln statue. It's one of the smallest engraved details ever placed on a circulating U.S. coin, and many people never notice it unless they use a magnifying glass. The year 2005 was an interesting period for the United States Mint. America was producing billions of pennies every year, and these coins were still being made primarily for everyday commerce. The Philadelphia Mint struck well over 3 billion Lincoln cents that year, making the 2005 no-mint mark penny very common in circulation. Because of those enormous production numbers, most examples are worth only face value if they have been used in everyday transactions. But this is where the story becomes much more interesting. Collectors don't simply judge a coin by its age. Instead, they look for three important things: condition, rarity, and mistakes made during the minting process. Even a modern coin can become valuable if it has one or more of these qualities. The 2005 Lincoln cent is composed of a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. It weighs approximately 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. While it looks similar to older copper pennies, its composition is quite different. Beginning in 1982, the U.S. Mint switched from mostly copper to copper-plated zinc to reduce production costs as metal prices increased. Although billions were produced, finding a flawless 2005 penny is much harder than many people expect. Most coins entered circulation almost immediately, picking up scratches, dents, stains, and wear within weeks or months. Coins that escaped circulation and remained in perfect condition are much scarcer than their original mintage numbers suggest. Professional grading services evaluate coins on a numerical scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS65 is considered gem uncirculated, while examples receiving MS67, MS68, or even higher become increasingly rare. The difference between an average circulated penny and a top-grade mint state coin can mean the difference between 1 cent and hundreds of dollars. Some of the highest quality 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln cents have sold for impressive prices at auction simply because so few survive in exceptional condition. While ordinary circulated examples remain worth face value, pristine coins certified in the highest grades have sold for several $100s, with elite examples bringing even more when collector demand is especially strong. The market changes over time, but condition continues to be the biggest factor. Then there are the mint errors. Error coins are accidental creations that occur during the manufacturing process. Instead of being destroyed before leaving the mint, a small number escape into circulation, creating exciting discoveries for collectors. One of the most sought-after errors is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin is not perfectly aligned beneath the dies before being struck. Part of the design ends up missing while the remaining image shifts toward one side. Depending on how dramatic the error is and whether the date remains visible, these coins can be worth anywhere from several dozen dollars to several $100s. Another collectible error is the broad strike. In this case, the retaining collar fails to hold the coin in place during striking, causing the finished penny to spread outward. The coin becomes slightly wider than normal while losing its raised rim. Collectors also search for die cracks. Over time, the dies used to strike coins develop tiny fractures. These cracks transfer onto the coin as raised lines. Some are barely noticeable, while others become large enough to create dramatic patterns that collectors eagerly pursue. Die chips are another fascinating variety. Small pieces of the die break away, leaving raised blobs of metal on the finished coin. Depending on their location and appearance, these can become popular among specialists who enjoy studying unusual minting flaws. Some collectors have discovered double dies among modern Lincoln cents. A double die occurs during die creation rather than during striking. Certain letters, numbers, or design elements appear doubled under magnification. True double dies can command strong premiums because they represent genuine die varieties rather than simple machine doubling. The famous BIE error is another interesting feature occasionally seen on Lincoln cents. A die crack develops between the letters B and E in the word Liberty, creating what looks like an extra letter I. Although many BIE varieties exist across different years, collectors continue searching every Lincoln cent they encounter in hopes of finding one. Now imagine opening a forgotten coin jar inherited from a relative. Most of the pennies are ordinary, but one bright red 2005 no-mint mark cent immediately catches your eye. It has almost no wear, sharp details, and brilliant original color. After careful examination, you notice a dramatic off-center strike with the full date still visible. You send the coin to a professional grading service. Weeks later, the package returns. The coin receives an excellent mint state grade, and the error is authenticated. Suddenly, what looked like a common penny has become a highly collectible coin worth hundreds of dollars. Stories like this are exactly why collectors continue checking every coin they receive in change. Of course, not every online claim should be believed. Social media videos often suggest that every 2005 penny is worth thousands or even millions of dollars. That simply isn't true. Most examples remain very common. Extraordinary values usually apply only to coins with rare mint errors, exceptional preservation, or unusual certified varieties. If you want to examine your own 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, begin by checking the date carefully. Make sure it reads 2005 and does not have a D beneath the date. Remember, no-mint mark is normal for Philadelphia. Next, inspect both sides under good lighting. Look for sharp details, unusual doubling, missing design elements, off-center strikes, raised lines from die cracks, or other unusual features. A simple magnifying glass or inexpensive coin loupe can reveal details invisible to the naked eye. Check the color as well. Collectors classify copper-plated Lincoln cents as brown, red-brown, or red. Coins retaining their original bright red mint color generally command stronger prices than darker examples, especially in high grades. Avoid cleaning the coin. This is one of the biggest mistakes new collectors make. Even gentle polishing can create tiny scratches that permanently reduce a coin's value. Professional collectors prefer natural surfaces, even if the coin appears less shiny. Weighing the coin can also help identify unusual pieces. A normal 2005 Lincoln cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. While a slightly different weight doesn't automatically mean a rare error, a significant difference could justify additional research by an experienced collector. If you believe you've found something unusual, consider submitting the coin to a respected grading service. Authentication provides confidence for both collectors and buyers while protecting against altered or counterfeit coins. One fascinating aspect of coin collecting is that rarity isn't always obvious. Some valuable coins hide in plain sight for years before someone notices an unusual detail. Others spend decades inside old piggy banks before finally being examined closely. The 2005 Lincoln penny also reminds us how quickly modern coins become part of history. When these cents entered circulation, they bought almost nothing by themselves. Yet nearly every American handled them daily. They passed through grocery stores, gas stations, schools, restaurants, vending machines, and countless cash registers, quietly becoming part of everyday life. Today, these pennies serve as miniature time capsules from the early 2000s. Every scratch tells a story. Every mint error represents a split-second mistake inside the mint. Every high-grade survivor reflects a coin that somehow escaped decades of wear. Collectors appreciate the 2005 no-mint mark penny because it combines accessibility with the thrill of discovery. Anyone can search pocket change, coin rolls from the bank, or family collections without spending a fortune. The possibility of finding a valuable variety keeps the hobby exciting. Some collectors focus only on perfect mint state examples. Others specialize in error coins. Many enjoy building complete date and mint collections of Lincoln cents spanning more than a century. The 2005 no-mint mark penny fits naturally into all of these collections, especially when found with exceptional eye appeal. Perhaps the greatest lesson this little coin teaches is that value isn't always obvious at first glance. Two pennies struck in the same year can look nearly identical, yet one may be worth a single cent while another brings hundreds of dollars because of condition or a rare minting error. The next time you receive change at a store, don't rush to spend every penny. Take a closer look. Examine the date. Notice the details. Search for anything unusual. That simple habit has led countless collectors to exciting discoveries over the years. The 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln penny may never become one of the rarest coins in American history, but it continues to remind collectors that even modern pocket change can hold unexpected surprises. Sometimes the difference between an ordinary coin and a remarkable collectible comes down to a tiny detail that most people never notice. So before you empty that coin jar or cash in those old pennies, spend a few moments looking through them carefully. You might find a beautifully preserved 2005 Lincoln cent, a fascinating mint error, or a hidden treasure waiting patiently to be recognized. And who knows, the next incredible coin discovery could already be sitting in your pocket, just waiting for someone curious enough to look a little closer. Have you ever picked up a penny from your pocket, looked at it for a second, and tossed it aside without another thought? What if one of those ordinary-looking coins could be worth far more than 1 cent? The truth is, some modern Lincoln pennies have surprised collectors with impressive values, and one of the most interesting examples is the 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks like a coin that millions of Americans have seen every day. But hidden among billions of these pennies are a few special pieces that have become exciting discoveries for collectors across the country. The 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, one of the most recognizable coins in American history. Since 1909, the Lincoln cent has honored President Abraham Lincoln, making it the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person instead of a symbolic image. More than a century later, the design remains familiar, but every year brings new opportunities for collectors searching for valuable varieties, rare errors, and exceptional condition coins. When people hear the words no mint mark, many immediately think the coin is rare simply because there is no letter beneath the date. In reality, that's not how modern Lincoln cents work. On a 2013 penny, having no mint mark simply means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia produced billions of pennies that year, and unlike some earlier decades, the mint did not place a P mint mark on 1-cent coins. So, a missing mint mark is completely normal for this issue. Even though the coin itself is common, that doesn't mean every 2013 Philadelphia penny is worth only 1 cent. That's where the story becomes much more interesting. The year 2013 was an important time for the Lincoln cent. The United States Mint continued producing billions of pennies for everyday commerce. Americans still relied heavily on cash transactions, and the penny remained one of the country's most heavily produced coins. These cents were made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating, a composition first introduced in 1982 to reduce production costs. Each coin weighs about 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. While those numbers may seem unimportant, experienced collectors often check them carefully. A coin with an unusual weight could indicate a rare mint error or an off-metal strike, both of which can be worth significant amounts of money. The front of the 2013 penny features Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His calm expression has become one of the most recognized images in American coinage. Above Lincoln appears the word liberty. The year 2013 sits to the right, while the phrase "In God We Trust" curves along the top edge. Turn the coin over, and you'll see the Union Shield design introduced in 2010. This reverse replaced the Lincoln Bicentennial series that celebrated different stages of Lincoln's life. The shield represents national unity and strength, with 13 vertical stripes symbolizing the original states joined together under one federal government. Across the center stretches a banner bearing the words, 1 cent, while United States of America appears above and the national motto E pluribus unum rests across the top. Although millions of these coins entered circulation, collectors quickly realized that not every example was created equally. Some left the mint with remarkable quality, while others contained unusual mistakes that transformed ordinary pocket change into desirable collectibles. Mint errors are one of the biggest reasons modern pennies can become valuable. These mistakes occur during the manufacturing process and often escape into circulation before anyone notices. One fascinating error is the off-center strike. Instead of the design appearing perfectly centered, part of the image shifts toward one edge, leaving a blank curved area on the opposite side. The more dramatic the off-center strike while still showing the date, the more desirable it often becomes. Another collectible mistake is a broad strike. This happens when the retaining collar fails during striking, allowing the coin to spread outward. The result is a penny that looks slightly larger than normal with an unusual shape. Collectors also search for doubled dies. These are not coins that were struck twice. Instead, the die itself contains a doubled image created during the manufacturing process. On certain coins, this doubling may appear on letters, numbers, or design elements. Strong double die examples can command impressive premiums. Die cracks are another popular feature. As minting dies wear out, tiny cracks can develop. These cracks leave raised lines on finished coins. While many die cracks are minor, dramatic examples often become collector favorites because every crack tells the story of a die nearing the end of its working life. Die chips and retained cuds can also create unusual raised blobs on letters or other parts of the design. Sometimes these odd-looking features even earn memorable nicknames within the collecting community. Perhaps the most exciting possibility involves wrong planchet errors. Imagine a 2013 penny accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination. These mistakes are extremely rare because the mint has strict quality controls, but when they do appear, collectors compete eagerly to own them. Then there are clipped planchets, where part of the blank was missing before striking, creating a curved section that appears cut away from the finished coin. Genuine clips show specific characteristics that experts can recognize, making authentication especially important. Even without dramatic mint errors, condition plays an enormous role in determining value. Most 2013 pennies spent years passing from one hand to another. They picked up scratches, stains, tiny dents, and worn surfaces. Those circulated examples usually remain worth face value or only a few cents. However, coins that somehow escaped circulation and retained their original mint luster tell a different story. These brilliant uncirculated examples become much harder to find as time passes. Every year, more coins enter circulation, reducing the number of pristine survivors. Professional grading companies carefully examine these coins under magnification, assigning numerical grades based on preservation and strike quality. The highest grades are incredibly difficult to achieve because even tiny marks can lower the final score. A typical circulated 2013 no-mint mark penny may still be worth only 1 cent. Attractive uncirculated coins often sell for a few dollars. Better preserved examples can bring considerably more. At the very top of the grading scale, exceptional coins with nearly flawless surfaces have sold for hundreds of dollars because collectors compete intensely for the finest known examples. Error coins tell an even more exciting story. Depending on the type and severity of the mistake, verified examples have sold for anywhere from several dozen dollars to hundreds, and in especially dramatic cases, even more. Every error is unique, which makes assigning an exact value difficult. The market depends on rarity, appeal, collector demand, and authentication. This explains why two pennies from the same year can have completely different values. One may spend decades in circulation worth only 1 cent, while another with an unusual mint error or exceptional preservation becomes a prized collectible. If you think you've found an interesting 2013 penny, knowing how to identify an authentic coin is essential. First, Examine the date carefully. It should clearly read 2013 with evenly shaped numbers. Look at the area beneath the date. A genuine Philadelphia issue will have no mint mark. If you see a D, it came from Denver instead. Next, study Lincoln's portrait. Genuine coins display sharp details, even if circulated. Blurry or unusually soft designs may indicate excessive wear or, in extremely rare situations, a counterfeit. Check the reverse as well. The Union Shield should have clean lines, readable lettering, and well-defined stripes. Weak or distorted features deserve closer inspection. Using a small digital scale can also help. A standard 2013 Lincoln cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. Significant differences may suggest damage, alteration, or the possibility of an unusual mint error requiring professional evaluation. Magnification is another valuable tool. A simple coin loupe allows collectors to inspect lettering, search for doubling, locate die cracks, or spot tiny features invisible to the naked eye. Be cautious of altered coins. Some people attempt to create fake errors by sanding surfaces, cutting edges, or modifying dates. Genuine mint errors occur during production, not afterward. Artificial damage almost always lowers a coin's value instead of increasing it. When a coin appears especially unusual or valuable, professional authentication is often worth considering. Certified coins provide buyers with confidence, especially when larger amounts of money are involved. One surprising fact about the 2013 penny is how many people unknowingly spend collectible coins every day. Coin roll hunters purchase rolls from banks, searching through thousands of pennies in hopes of finding rare varieties or high-grade examples. Most rolls contain ordinary coins, but every once in a while, someone discovers a remarkable treasure hiding in plain sight. Another fascinating detail is that modern coins often become more collectible decades after they were made. Many people assume only ancient or very old coins have value. History repeatedly proves otherwise. As time passes, high-quality survivors become scarcer, increasing demand among collectors trying to complete date and mint collections. The Lincoln cent also represents one of America's longest-running coin designs. Few coins remain in production for more than a century while continuing to inspire new generations of collectors. Children often begin their collecting journey with Lincoln pennies because they're affordable, easy to find, and filled with historical significance. The 2013 issue also reminds us that rarity doesn't always come from low mintage. Sometimes rarity comes from survival. Billions may have been produced, yet only a tiny fraction remain in flawless condition. Those elite examples become the coins serious collectors pursue. Many experienced collectors enjoy searching through everyday change because the next valuable discovery could appear anywhere. A forgotten coin jar, an inherited collection, a bankroll, or loose change from a grocery store could all contain an overlooked gem. Stories like these continue fueling the excitement of coin collecting. Every discovery encourages more people to take a closer look at the coins passing through their hands each day. The 2013 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny may not seem extraordinary at first glance, but it perfectly illustrates why coin collecting remains one of America's most rewarding hobbies. It teaches patience, observation, history, and the thrill of discovery. Whether you're searching for a dramatic mint error, an exceptionally preserved example, or simply learning more about the coins in your pocket, every penny has a story waiting to be uncovered. So before you spend your next handful of change, pause for just a moment. Look closely at those ordinary-looking pennies. Check the date. Examine the design. Search for unusual features. You never know when a simple 1-cent coin could reveal something collectors have been hunting for years. And remember, today's common pocket change can become tomorrow's sought-after collectible. The next remarkable discovery may already be sitting in your wallet, hidden in a coin jar, or waiting quietly in a bank roll. All it takes is one careful look to uncover a story worth far more than a single cent. Have you ever looked at a 2015 Lincoln penny and thought it was just another 1-cent coin? What if that tiny copper-colored coin sitting in your pocket, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, could actually be worth far more than 1 cent? The truth is, While millions of ordinary 2015 pennies are worth only face value, a few unusual examples have surprised collectors with impressive prices. The difference between an ordinary coin and a valuable one often comes down to tiny details that most people never notice. The 2015 Lincoln penny without a mint mark is one of the most common modern American coins. Yet it has become increasingly interesting to collectors. Every year, people search through jars, piggy banks, and old collections hoping to discover a hidden treasure. Sometimes they find nothing, but every now and then, someone discovers a coin with a rare error or an exceptional condition that changes everything. The 2015 Lincoln cent without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. For many years, coins produced in Philadelphia simply did not carry a mint mark, making no mint mark completely normal for Lincoln cents from that facility. Even though these coins were made in enormous numbers, they still play an important role in modern coin collecting because collectors often search them for rare minting mistakes and unusually well-preserved examples. By 2015, the Lincoln cent had already become one of America's longest-running coin series. First introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first regular United States coin to feature a real historical person instead of a symbolic image. That decision changed American coinage forever. Over the decades, the Lincoln cent has gone through several design changes. The famous wheat ears on the reverse were replaced by the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. Then, in 2009, for special reverse designs celebrated Lincoln's life. Beginning in 2010, the reverse changed once again to the Union Shield design, the same design found on the 2015 penny. The Union Shield represents Lincoln's efforts to preserve the United States during one of its most difficult periods. 13 vertical stripes symbolize the original colonies, while the horizontal bar across the top represents the federal government holding the nation together. It is a simple but meaningful design that reminds Americans of unity and strength. On the front of the coin, Abraham Lincoln's portrait remains one of the most recognizable images in American history. Victor David Brenner's original portrait has been refined over the years, but continues to honor one of the country's greatest presidents. Although the coin appears copper, it is actually made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. Since 1982, Lincoln cents have contained about 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. This keeps production costs lower while maintaining the familiar appearance Americans expect. A standard 2015 penny weighs approximately 2.5 grams and measures 19.05 millimeters across. These specifications help collectors determine whether a coin is genuine. Any significant difference in weight could indicate damage, alteration, or an unusual mint error. One question many beginners ask is why anyone would pay more than 1 cent for a coin that millions of people still have. The answer lies in 3 important factors: condition, rarity, and mint errors. Condition is often the biggest factor. Most 2015 pennies entered circulation immediately after leaving the mint. They were carried in pockets, dropped into cash registers, rolled through counting machines, and exposed to years of wear. As a result, truly flawless examples become much harder to find than most people imagine. Professional grading services carefully examine coins under magnification, assigning grades based on preservation. A coin that still displays its original mint luster with almost no marks can receive an exceptionally high grade. These top-quality examples are surprisingly scarce despite the coin's large production numbers. Some certified mint-state examples have sold for several times their face value simply because they represent the finest known examples available to collectors trying to build complete registry sets. While many circulated 2015 pennies remain worth only 1 cent, premium uncirculated pieces can bring anywhere from several dollars to well over $100 depending on their certified grade and market demand. But condition is only part of the story. Collectors become especially excited when they discover genuine mint errors. These errors happen during the manufacturing process before the coins leave the mint. Because they occur accidentally, they can transform an ordinary penny into a highly collectible item. One of the most popular errors is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet isn't perfectly positioned when struck by the dies. The result is a design shifted noticeably toward one side. If enough of the design remains visible while the error is dramatic, collectors often pay significant premiums. Another sought-after error is the broad strike. This occurs when the collar that normally shapes the coin fails to hold the planchet properly during striking. The finished coin appears wider than normal with distorted edges, making it easy to recognize. Collectors also search for clipped planchets. Before coins are struck, circular blanks are punched from large sheets of metal. Occasionally, a blank is cut too close to another, leaving a curved section missing. If such a blank is struck, the finished coin shows a distinctive curved clip that experts can authenticate. Die cracks are another fascinating variety. Over time, tremendous striking pressure causes the dies themselves to develop tiny fractures. These cracks appear on coins as raised lines crossing parts of the design. While small die cracks are fairly common, larger and more dramatic examples can attract considerable collector interest. Then there are die chips and die breaks. These occur when small pieces of the die break away, leaving raised blobs or unusual shapes on the struck coins. Depending on size and location, these can become popular collectible varieties. Double strikes are among the most dramatic mint errors. Instead of receiving one clean strike, the coin is struck twice, creating overlapping images. Such errors are usually obvious even to beginners and can command impressive prices. Some collectors spend years searching bank rolls hoping to discover one of these unusual mistakes. Most rolls contain nothing extraordinary, but the excitement comes from knowing that every unopened roll still has the potential to reveal something unexpected. Real auction records show just how much condition and rarity can influence value. Ordinary circulated 2015 no-mint mark pennies generally remain worth only 1 cent. Nice uncirculated coins may sell for a few dollars. Certified examples with exceptionally high grades have sold for much stronger prices because top population coins are surprisingly difficult to locate. Meanwhile, authentic mint errors have brought even larger premiums. Depending on the type of error, its visibility, rarity, and certification, some have sold for tens, hundreds, or even more than $1,000. The value always depends on the specific error and how dramatic it appears. It's important to understand that headlines claiming every 2015 penny is worth thousands of dollars are simply not true. Those extraordinary prices almost always involve rare errors or exceptionally preserved certified examples, not ordinary pocket change. If you're checking your own coins, start by looking at the date. Make sure it clearly reads 2015. Next, check for the absence of a mint mark below the date. No mint mark indicates the coin was struck in Philadelphia, which is completely normal. Then examine the coin carefully under good lighting. A magnifying glass can reveal details that your eyes alone might miss. Look for doubled lettering, unusual shapes, missing design elements, cracks, clipped edges, or signs that the coin was struck off-center. Pay close attention to the color and surface. Original mint luster often appears as a bright cartwheel effect when the coin is tilted under light. Coins with this original shine are generally more desirable than heavily worn examples. Next, weigh the coin if possible. A genuine 2015 Lincoln cent should weigh close to 2.5 grams. A significant difference may suggest damage or another unusual situation worth investigating further. However, be careful not to confuse post-mint damage with genuine mint errors. Scratches, dents, flattened edges, discoloration from chemicals, or damage from coin rolling machines happened after the coin entered circulation. These usually reduce value rather than increase it. Counterfeit modern pennies are relatively uncommon because the face value is so low. However, altered coins do exist. Some people modify coins to imitate valuable errors. Professional grading companies can determine whether an unusual coin is authentic or has been altered. If you believe you found something special, avoid cleaning it. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. Even gentle cleaning can leave tiny scratches that permanently reduce a coin's value. Collectors almost always prefer original surfaces, even if the coin appears slightly dirty. Store the coin safely in a protective holder to prevent further wear. If experts later confirm that the coin is rare, proper storage may help preserve its value for years to come. One interesting fact about Lincoln cents is that billions have been produced over the decades, making them one of the most collected coins in America. Their affordability allows almost anyone to begin a collection, regardless of age or budget. Many experienced collectors first became interested in coins because they searched through pocket change as children. Finding an unusual penny created a lifelong passion that eventually grew into serious collecting. The 2015 penny also represents modern American coin production at an incredibly advanced level. Every day, the United States Mint produces millions of coins with remarkable speed and precision. Yet despite sophisticated equipment, tiny errors still occasionally occur, reminding us that perfection is never completely guaranteed. Another surprising detail is that modern coins are becoming increasingly difficult to find in perfect condition. Although billions are produced, they immediately begin collecting tiny contact marks as they move through large counting machines and storage bins. That's one reason why flawless examples certified at the highest grades remain so desirable. Collectors also appreciate the historical continuity of the Lincoln cent. More than a century after its introduction, Abraham Lincoln still appears on America's lowest denomination coin. Few coin designs anywhere in the world have remained in continuous production for so long. Today, the 2015 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny reminds collectors that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin hides an extraordinary story. Whether it's an unusual mint error, a nearly perfect survivor, or simply part of a complete Lincoln cent collection, every coin has the potential to teach us something about history, craftsmanship, and the excitement of discovery. Perhaps the greatest lesson this tiny coin offers is that treasures don't always come wrapped in gold or silver. Sometimes they arrive disguised as everyday pocket change that millions of people overlook without a second thought. So the next time you receive change at a grocery store, empty your pockets after work, or open an old jar of pennies that's been sitting on a shelf for years, don't rush past those little copper-colored coins. Take a closer look. Examine the date. Check for unusual details. Notice the condition. You may find nothing unusual at all. Or you might discover the one coin that everyone else missed. After all, every valuable coin started as an ordinary coin in someone's hands, and the next remarkable discovery could be waiting quietly in your own pocket right now.